I like the fact that we're using a word that seems to be outlawed by Obama. The word Oriental. I didn't know this, but is actually considered a racial slur.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but it makes sense though. I mean that it's seen that way because you don't hear people say it except for like from old clips from like the 30s or something where they would call Oriental or Asian people Orientals. You don't hear that nowadays.
Do you? So let me ask you this: do you find the word Oriental offensive?
From the face value, no, but
I guess you're speaking for all Asians here, okay?
I would say no, but if someone's trying to offend you by calling you Oriental, then it's really out of like from the context. I would say,
yeah,
I wouldn't let it bother me. I don't like.
Yeah.
I try not to be bothered by things like that. Just because it's like, what's the point? But
I agree.
I agree. I guess from a Hollywood perspective, it does sound kind of racist. Like you'd only hear
you're calling people things like that's the Oriental rug. So then you're calling Oriental people like what you're calling it. Like I guess you're comparing it to things.
Yeah, I guess it's a word I've never really thought about.
It's almost never been used around me. Like I don't know. So for me, I'm like I don't know how offensive it is. I don't know how offensive it actually is to me because it's never used towards me. It's never been used in my vicinity even, I mean, like I read about it, and I'm catching up on the fact that it's been turned into a racial slur.
Yeah.
They took out the word Oriental in all of Congress, like all the terminologies used to refer to Asian people.
Yeah, any sort of federal
Asian Americans.
Any sort of federal documents, Obama outlawed the use of the word Oriental to refer to Asians. Yeah.
And I don't know. I just don't find it that offensive. And yet, I guess, I guess we shouldn't be using it. Oriental with the AL at the end. But
which we did some reading.
I don't know.
And it just means the East. Like geographically, it just means East. So I think back then,
there's Oriental world, and then there is Occidental world, right? Occidental literally in Latin, it's called West, and Orient is like East or something, or rising. I think rising and descending, something like that.
Something like that. But it's just funny
like rising sun and.
Because I think before Asia was discovered by Westerners, I think they would call like people from like the Turkish Empire Oriental, or maybe the Arabs. So as they kept moving more east, the definition of Oriental, or like what they would be to describe Oriental people, changed throughout history.
Yeah. They're like, oh man, we thought those people were Oriental. These motherfuckers are Oriental.
Until they
look really different from us.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny when you think about it that way. It's like it just means East, and it kind of turned into like this negative connotation throughout all these years. And when you think about it like that, it's like, oh, it's kind of silly, but I don't know.
You know how you said that the word Oriental, like, I guess, if someone said it a certain way and it could be made offensive, right? Then I'm like, okay, so people took offense to the way Trump said China, like the way he says China.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so is the word China going to be outlawed eventually? Like, is that word going to be considered a racial slur? Because people were getting weirded out by the word China. Like, why do you have to say China? And I'm like, I admit this. I do feel weird when people say Chinese. Like the word Chinese bugs me sometimes when people say, oh yeah, he's this Chinese guy. I'm like, ooh, that just sounds weird to me. It sounds offensive.
I know what you mean, because I think it's kind of like that with the word Mexican too. You're just describing something as Mexican, but it's been
Mexican.
It's been used in like these other contexts where it's like it just sounds racist over time.
Yeah. So I'm like, well, if that's the feeling I'm getting, am I just being a whiny bitch and saying like anything can offend me? And was that the case with the word Oriental, or is there an actual, like, I don't know. I guess we're all kind of like sensitive like that, like because we are that, and which is what we are the representation of what someone is describing. Like there is like a slight sensitivity to it, right? It's like when you're at a stand-up show and you just happen to fall into the category in which what they are making fun of. The joke is at your expense.
Yeah,
you don't like those jokes.
But if it's funny though, it's funny. If it's not funny, then it's like, okay, that's kind of offensive. I feel like.
Yeah, but I don't know. I am sensitive like that though, because like I won't say much. I'm like, whatever. It's it's a joke. I shouldn't feel this way, but I can't help but feel that way. Like even like when say I love Dave Chappelle. I absolutely love Dave Chappelle. Everything he says, most of everything he says, I'm like, yeah, there's some truth in that, and that perspective is very interesting. And I don't think like that, but I love how he's able to tie it together, and he tries to humanize his humor, right? And one of the last ones he did, I know he's in trouble with like the LGBTQ community a lot, right? With his humor. Actually, I don't even know it's all that humorous anymore. Like now,
yeah, I went to his. Every time he has a new special, or I went to his actual show in San Diego in December, and it just ends up being kind of like a lecture or like a, I don't know. Yeah, it's not even humorous anymore. It's just him trying to like cover for himself. I don't know.
Yeah, he's not as funny as he used to be. He's in a weird space too. He's in a weird space. Yeah. But yeah, and when there's more recent ones, he brought up Chinese people. I can't. You know what? I can't remember the joke. But it's like the lone joke on Chinese people. So
I don't know if this is the one you're talking about, but he was talking about how he was comparing people who are gender fluid or like transgendered.
Yeah.
He was trying to compare them to people who are thinking they're transracial. It's like,
okay.
It's like, I'm black, but today I feel Chinese or something like that. I was like, that's a joke. I remember.
He had the accent. That's what it was, right? Yeah. And I remember feeling,
I thought it was hilarious.
It is hilarious. But I did get my panties in the bunch. I did get a little like, oh man, I gotta bring out the accent, man. Like I felt it. Well, as much as I don't want to admit it. Yeah. I don't want to admit that I felt that. But being honest here, I felt it. You know what I mean?
That's funny. I didn't feel that because the way I saw it was like that joke wouldn't have hit the same if he didn't do the accent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. But maybe I'm too woke for this. Maybe I'm just too sensitive. I don't know, whatever. But had it been an Asian guy making that same joke, I've been like, oh, that's fucking hilarious. Love it. But because he's not Asian, I had a slight, I grimaced at it a little bit, like that my heart grimaced a little bit, like my insides, like kind of like, ugh. But obviously I'm like, it's a joke, take it. And, he's not trying to hurt you. He's trying to make a point, and I guess that's,
that's the context part too. Yeah.
That's the context. It's important. Yeah. But, like I feel for people who don't like going back to Oriental, like if people really found offensive to the word Oriental, I feel for them in the same way as much. I feel for them as much as I don't understand it, I guess. Because like that word doesn't offend me. I don't feel anything.
Yeah, but in the sense of like, yeah, that word has never been used towards me.
I don't feel anything towards that word. I don't find it offensive, but yeah, I can understand what they're saying when they say that is offensive, because when, Dave Chappelle, the comedian I love so much, makes a joke like that, I still feel a little bit, then I'm like, I can tap into that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know. We can go on about this.
And then I guess forever. I also wonder too, if white people in China, I don't know how they say guaylo in Mandarin, but in Cantonese, the word guaylo means like white person,
white
basically.
People. Yeah,
I think it means like ghost person.
It's referring to white people, but it literally translates to ghost person. Yeah, ghost dude.
I think because of their skin color. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm basically saying a white devil. You're calling white people white devil to their faces, and it's actually socially accepted over there.
Yeah. So I wonder if if white people that do speak Cantonese get offended by that term. Probably not. But
yeah, they got to be more woke over there, man. They got to outlaw that shit. It's unacceptable. Unacceptable.